Hockey is the greatest sport on planet Earth, and I'm going to fight anybody who says otherwise.
I agree
How
completely.
fucking bananas was that weekend?
We were so fortunate to have back-to-back evenings where we had electrifying finishes to game sevens. And somebody that I'm really good friends with, he has like a really popular college football
Mm,
Twitter account. Um, he's a huge hockey guy, and he has been saying like, "Oh, the NBA could never,
no.
like the NBA playoffs could never."
Mm-mm.
And if you think about it, like both game sevens in the NBA playoffs, no drama. As a matter of fact, they ended up being blowouts, like
Right.
double digit wins. Um, but I was thinking, like kind of jumping on that. Think about this: if you're like Colorado, like a Colorado sports fan,
Sure.
you had two game sevens to think about on Saturday night. You had the Nuggets against the
Nuggets, yeah.
Clippers in game seven. Then you had the Avs and the Stars. And I'm thinking a lot of people definitely flipped away from the Nuggets game because the Nuggets ended up winning by like 20 plus. So,
Yeah, so they wanted to see what happened with the
and I'm
Avs.
thinking to myself, man, what a great evening. Because I'm thinking it's 2-0 Colorado in the
Like,
third. I was like, oh, it's a
they're
done deal.
jumping.
And I'm just like, I'm impressed so much with the resilience that the Stars had. Mikko Rantanen stepping up big
It's
time.
scary to know, like, how much he was able to step up, you
The
know?
question that I have for him, well, you know what? Let's wait, and I'll get into that a little bit
We'll
more.
get it. We'll get into it.
Yeah.
Actually, no. The first thing I really wanted to bring it up. The first thing was last night. Like that. That is the biggest story of the weekend.
Of the
Was
day. Yeah.
you thought they weren't able to like top Saturday's game. Well, they
They found a
quadrupled
way.
it. They quadrupled it.
They found a
What
way.
like I'll give my react. Well, so like I couldn't believe it. I think anybody couldn't believe it. You're down two. It looked like the entire game, the Jets were out of it. It was over. Like they were
Yeah.
not. They had no business winning that game. Um, I want to blame. Like, yeah, it's obvious to blame. It's easy to blame St. Louis, but you have to look at it like, okay, yeah, they find a way to get a goal here, sure, but like the amount of things that needed to go right in the
Right.
last 10, 12 seconds left, the
Mhm.
bounces, super smart, by the way, from Nikolai. I think it was Nikolai Ehlers at the point,
Yeah.
who, instead of shooting it with 4 or 5 seconds left, decides I'm going to go cross ice to Kyle Connor, who still fans on the shot, and it goes right to Cole Perfetti.
Well, that's the thing. Ehlers took a shot right before that, and he fanned on it. It came, and luckily, it came back to him, and then he found Kyle Connor, and just a great tip by Cole Perfetti, who I thought for sure he was going to get a hat trick. I'm thinking this is just like last night. Someone's going to get a hat trick in Game Seven. Ended up not being the case, but I think it was
Yeah,
actually great that Adam Lowry was able to get the game winner, being the captain. Um, it was awesome. It was
it was
awesome. I
it
don't
was
know who was
unbelievable.
calling the game on Sportsnet, but he had a really good call in that game.
Jagpreet Singh, I believe, who I think he got a promotion, if I'm not mistaken.
He's also like the voice of like the NHL video game recently. I think he is.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. You
I
know what? Yeah,
recognize
you
that
say that
voice.
sounds familiar. Yeah, it was so dumb though. I can't remember who his host was or his co-host, excuse me, was.
Hmm.
But we were like halfway through double. I think it was overtime, not double overtime. We're halfway through it, and his partner is like, "Oh, like totally off topic here, but did you hear that Sidney Crosby's going to the World Championships?"
Oh, jeez.
And he's like,
Oh, we can't
"Yeah."
talk about that today
Oh, and we will. We will.
because Canada might literally be loaded.
Loaded up.
This world championship is actually this world championship might actually already be wrapped up, and we
It
haven't even
could.
started.
It's crazy. But yeah, like he started talking about that, and I'm like, dude, you're in the middle of like one of the greatest comebacks in Game 7 of all time, and you're like, I've gotta bring up Sidney Crosby here.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah. Of course.
you're a dumbass. So Cole Perfetti's goal, that was the how do you even describe it? His tying goal. Like it was the closest to the end of regulation in a game 7 to tie it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? He was
Oh yeah.
second to Matt Cook in 2004. But again, it wasn't a game 7. It was, it was whatever at the time for the Canucks in 2004. But yeah, that was really cool
It
to
was
witness
awesome.
last night. Um,
Electrifying.
very electrifying. So yeah, we'll dive deep into round two. We'll get our predictions ready as it starts tonight,
I'm sure my prediction will go just as well as the first
as
round
the
did.
first rounds usually did.
Oh yeah,
But yeah, we have Flames news, which is odd. Like I don't think we were really expecting it, to be quite
it came
frank.
out of nowhere.
It really did.
This was not a rumor. This was not something that like we've kind of expected to happen. This came out of literally in the middle of the
Left
day
field.
on, was it Saturday?
Yeah, you messaged me Saturday, I believe,
I
and
think
I
I was
was
the one
like,
that
"What?"
threw it to you.
You threw
Yeah,
it to me, and that was the first time I saw it. I was like,
yeah.
"What?"
Because our friend of the podcast, Steph, she messaged me and she said Coronato in like all caps. And I'm
Oh,
like,
okay.
well, he didn't get I was like thinking like, well, he didn't
Well, he
get
didn't get
traded.
traded, number one.
Right. And then I look and then it like the Flames, I think, posted it first. And I was like,
Yeah.
wow, like, okay.
So talks began. I was reading it. Talks began back all the way at the trip down New York, if you recall, right? The one
Hmm.
where they won 3 in a row. It was after the Rangers game, actually, on the way to play the Devils on that Thursday, the one that me and you did. And
Hmm.
that's when talks began. And it was very clear that the side of Coronato's camp said, we don't want a bridge deal. And Conroy went, perfect. Let's end the year. Let's get it done. And we'll see us later, right?
Fair enough.
It was easily worked out from both sides. It was very smooth, and it worked out to being a pretty fascinating deal. So there you have it. So Matthew Coronato, who I believe is an RFA this year,
Correct. He would have been an RFA.
he would have been
Hmm.
an RFA, is now in Calgary for the next 7 years at a $45 million contract. It works out to being 6.5 million AAV for the next 7 years. Initial reaction I saw was that if you just look on like basic, like the NHL, who posted this on their socials and whatever, like the original
Hmm.
ones, right? The basic ones. You look at the comments and people literally have no idea who this guy is. And that's why everybody thought it was an overpay, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
everybody in
Oh yeah.
Flames land is like hooting and hollering about this because of how awesome this deal is.
Sure.
My first thoughts, and then I'll throw it to you. It is such a good value. That is and really, it immediately makes me think of, my God, we could have had Kachuk. You know, if Brad Treliving wasn't such a fucking idiot. But this was Conroy's first real signing, real long-term signing,
Hmm.
and I am so pumped about this. It is fantastic to see. Yeah, like the value of it is really, really good with the cap going up here.
Yeah.
So the 22-year-old, again, he was on the final year of a 3-year deal. It was a $4.4 million contract, so at a 1.49 million AAV. Um,
Yeah.
and he broke out this year. So far in his career, he's got in 77 games, he's got 24 goals and 23 assists. That was actually his full year here for the Flames. So in those 77 games, he had 24 goals and 23 assists for 47 points on a forward group that at times, like, he was playing with Backlund, he was playing with Coleman, he was playing with Kadri, he was playing with Hubert. Like, he was playing everywhere, right, on this top 12. And he was third after all that in goals and points. And to be like so up and down, back and forth, like, you know, to finally get like, you have an identity with this guy now, is he's solidified himself in the top 6 for the next
Hmm.
7 years, is really cool to see. And then for those of you who don't remember, he was the 13th pick all the way back in very shortly, actually, 2021,
Hmm.
when he had in his, I believe in his college career, 56 points, 27 goals and 29 assists. Again, like very similar to who he is. Last thing before I throw it over to you, Neil, just quotes about it real quick, where he says, I'm just really excited about it. I love playing for the Flames. I love the city, so I'm excited to be here long term and continue to get better and grow with this team. I love all the guys. I love all the staff. It's just an exciting day for me and my family. Um, and he continues on by saying, I just want to continue to improve and find little ways that I can help with the team more, whether to be on the defensive side of the ice or maybe finding ways to get open more in the offensive zone. Just trying always to look for little things that I can do that will help this team continue to win and the playoffs. It's going to be a big goal for this group. So I'm already excited to get back next season. Yeah. So Neil, your thoughts on Coronato's 7-year, $6.5 million deal with the Flames?
I said it on Twitter when this first came out that Coronado is coming off of a year where he had career highs in games played, had career highs in goals, and had career highs in points. Ironically, it wasn't he didn't have a career high in assists, which is kind of interesting because I think
At
last year
23, yeah, that's
he
right.
had 23, and I think he had 25 or 26 2 years
Yes.
ago. I believe if I saw that correctly. But basically, Coronato took a step forward, right? And we talked about at the beginning of the year that he needed to step up. He needed to take another step forward. He needed to start showing what he can do. And he did. He did it in spades this year. And so for the Flames to sign him at 22 years of age, people forget he's only 22.
Yeah.
He's not even really in the prime of his career, at least not the way that I look at it. I always look at it like you're in your prime when you hit like 25, in my
This was
opinion.
his first full year with the Flames.
Correct.
First.
First full year. And he was very, very solid. And this is a really good piece of business by Craig Conroy here to lock him down. And what it essentially does is it's the sending of a message to the rest of the team that Craig Conroy is ready to establish that core, establish that guys want to be here, guys want to have the chance to be a part of this team long term and to establish, who are the guys that we look to moving forward. So for Coronato, I think this is great. He proved himself a lot. And again, his agent said we're not doing a bridge deal. He was on a bridge deal essentially. That's the way that I look at it. With
Not
1 point.
again. Like, yes,
Yeah,
makes
not
sense.
again. Right, right. Of course, it's like when Line was going through his contracts with Winnipeg and then eventually Columbus. Like he ended up signing I think like two different bridge deals at one point.
Correct.
It was
Yeah.
insane. But for Coronado, this is great. This just shows the belief that the Flames organization has in him long term.
Mhm.
And I get it. Like Coronado is not a very well known name outside of Alberta. Um, just being
No,
blunt
you're
here.
right. Yep.
Um, and I think he'll become much more of a name next season and moving forward because of the abilities that he has. So it's really exciting. And now he's one of those guys that we know is going to be here long term. So now it's about establishing who your core is, which you're starting to with Coronado, and how can you build around it. And I think that that's really where it is. And look, the Flames have money to spend, right? I mean, they have a lot of money to spend, and they
They do.
wanted to make sure this was done. This is like one less thing they got to worry about when they get to July 1st, because like it says here, it could have been restricted free agent. And with the likelihood that more teams will offer sheet guys, it's just a risk that I don't think the Flames wanted to take. And so
Not at
they
all.
sign him long term, and now he's a part of the core. Really like this, and I think it's a really good start to the offseason for Craig Conroy and the Flames as well.
So the next thing that was brought up was your boy originally, Kevin Ball,
Hmm.
where it was rumored that he is going to be looking for anywhere between 5 to 6 years. They didn't disclose the amount of money, but going into an offseason where the key names here are clearly three that we have left now in Dustin Wolf, in Connor Zary, and now Kevin Ball.
Hmm.
Everybody else is more UFA, but you have like the key guys here who you want to be able to lock down. Because you're right, like you totally hit the nail on the head there with the RFA talk. Like it feels like it's gonna be that type of off season again where
Sure.
RFAs are gonna like start coming through the roof, right?
Right.
It's gonna be fascinating to watch this off season. That's the number one thing. So
Yeah.
to get this out of the way, it now sets a benchmark for the rest of the signings to come.
Hmm.
So now I'm more curious because I think it's fair to say that we're all very confident that the three names that I mentioned there are going to get signed, right?
Yeah.
How long it is, I don't know. Again, Kevin Ball, 5 to 6 years. Connor Zary, I could see being in the same sort of ballpark, to be honest with you. And Wolf, like, give him an 8x8 and call it a day. Like, I would sign him in a heartbeat,
Yeah. I
right?
I I think I had looked at it at least with Kevin Ball. I think 4.5 by 5. I think I said that wrong. 5 by 4.5 would be like where I think would be
Oh,
reasonable
like you
for
have him in
him.
the $4 million range.
$4.5 to $5 million range, and for 5 years, because again,
Right.
that goes along what he's looking for. With Zari, I don't think it'll be that difficult. Honestly, I think the one that might be the most, I don't want to say challenging, but the one that might take a little bit longer is probably Dustin Wolf. I don't think
Yeah, I
it's
can see that.
I don't think it's a level of term. I think it's more of a level of money. That's the
Yeah,
way I look at it.
because they have already said, like, "You are our guy," and I wouldn't be surprised if he signs it like, anything less than 8 years would be shocking to me, right?
So if it's
Like, I
7, you'll be shocked?
yeah, I think so.
Really?
Unless well, so
You think it's
unless,
that
like
much of a difference between
sorry,
7 and 8?
sorry, like, okay, if they say 7 and
Yeah.
and they sign him this offseason, they're finishing out the deal, you have him for the next 8
Mhm.
years, okay, fine, like, yes, I
I
see that. Ideally, I wanna lock him down to an 8-year deal, of course.
Yeah, and I think that also it's fair to say that with long-term deals, for the most part, it's usually in the even number. So I know with Coronato it's 7 years, but, like, I call it 8 because that's
I
just
think
my
Will
opinion.
Weeger signed a 7-year deal too,
Right,
right?
right. But I think with Wolf, I mean, there's no debate, there's no, like, questioning about it. There's no, like, is he the number one guy? No, he is. Like, it's pretty much established that this is our guy. And
Yeah.
so you wanna keep him, and I'm sure he wants to stay. I don't think that there's any inkling that he doesn't wanna be there.
There's
And
been no rumblings at
there's
all
no
of
rumblings. And I
anywhere.
think Craig Conroy has created an environment in Calgary where guys want to be here. And that's the biggest thing that you want
Yeah.
when you are running a franchise, is that you make it a destination. You make it a place that people want to go to and be there for the foreseeable future. And I
Yeah.
think that that's what we're establishing here. And that's what Conroy is establishing with first the Coronado signing. And I think what we'll see with Kevin Ball, Connor Zari, and eventually Dustin Wolf as well.
There's a lot of and I think the one thing that Coronato said, in his statements, he's like, "I'm so excited, like, for the future with this team." He's excited to see where it goes, and, like, you're right, like, yeah, they have kind of now created that environment, right?
Mhm.
And it really, here's the thing, I think it's an even more telltale sign that Anderson's out the door. I
I
think his
think
days
we're
are numbered.
looking more towards that. Yes.
I think his days are starting to get numbered. And nothing with him, but you want to like I would rather be giving out this kind of money to the younger guys that had a great year rather than full credit to Anderson who finished off the year great on a broken leg for pretty much, right? On his fibula for like the last 12 games.
Yeah.
But it's like it's not fair. I wouldn't think it wouldn't be fair to Zane coming up, you know, where you've now like this is kind of establishing the culture, right? This is the
Mhm.
start of what's going to be a chain effect here, right? With Ball coming up, with Zari, with Wolf, when maybe next when Zane Prek is going to have 1 year left on his deal, like that's going to get signed too. Like, who knows what happened with Hanzek? I don't know if he decides to take a step up or not, but it's going to become a chain effect where you want to get these young guys locked down long term.
Mhm.
And Anderson, I think, is just going to become the odd man out, and the
Yeah.
future is going to run through Mackenzie Weegar. And then it also brings back, the conversation of, you know, they're still looking for young guys at center and what you do in that position as well moving forward. There's a whole bunch of different pieces, but this is ideally, I didn't think this was the way it was going to start, but I'm happy it is.
I think it just, again, like I said before, I think it just is a good indication from Craig Conroy that this is now the new direction of the Flames. That now, we went through the last couple of years of that old
A
core
lull.
being shipped out, and trying to find that identity. Now Conroy has gone through it. He watched how this year went, and I think he has a clearer picture as to who the guys are that he wants in his foxhole for as long as possible. And I think that that's what you're seeing with Coronado. And again, that's what I think you'll see with the other couple of RFAs that we have. So yeah, I mean, it's you can't help but be excited because you're going to potentially have guys starting training camp next year, knowing that they're there for the long run, and you could really focus on them, which is great. And
It's
for me, I became a huge Matthew Coronado fan watching this year, the way that he played. And I'm just as excited as he is that he's sticking around in Colorado, Calgary, excuse me. I have
Nice.
not Colorado, thank God. If him on
You don't
Colorado,
want
he
to be in
put up.
Colorado right now.
If he was in Colorado, he'd have 50 goals probably this year with the way
Right.
that they play. But no, overall, I think it's really good that
Yeah.
the Flames can keep him long term, and we'll see how the rest of the offseason goes.
It's a it's a
Starting tonight.
It's a fascinating start. Yeah, tonight. So I will be. I'm gonna go live at 6:45. with
Quarter
Neil?
7.
With Neil? Question mark. I forgot
Yeah,
to ask. Okay,
yeah.
only going to be on until about 7:30. The draft
It's
lottery does start at 7 o'clock.
yeah. There's no stress behind it. It's just a
No,
very short event.
it's a short event.
Think
A
think it's on
hyped up one though.
ESPN in United States. I believe it's on ESPN. I don't know where it is
ESPN in
on.
the US. It's going to be on Sportsnet because the Leafs do play tonight, 8 o'clock. They're keeping it on Sportsnet, so it'll be showcased there at 7 o'clock tonight Eastern. There is a stipulation tonight for the Calgary Flames at a 0.5% chance that they can move up 10 spots to get into the top 10. It becomes top 10 protected, and then the pick would then subsequently be moved to Florida if that were to be the case. If not, Montreal will take the pick.
Mhm.
Yeah, like I don't know about you, just again, looking at it from a Flames perspective here. I'm kind of okay not really being in the top 10 this year. And
Yeah,
I was just doing a lot of reading where they just kept saying like the defensive like this year's draft is clearly weaker, right? Defensively, like they were talking about number 2 defenseman in North America, Caden Atchison, who plays for the Barrie Colts, right? Like he wouldn't even crack almost the first round, they were saying. That's how weak this is becoming in this
yeah,
draft. Now, that's not going to say anything until they go out on the ice and play and perform, right?
right.
But what it does present is the Flames will have an opportunity, depending what Florida does here still. Like it might be a later pick in the first round, but regardless, they still have 2 first-round picks.
Hoping for a
And
second round exit. We're really
someone's
hoping for it.
it's true, but somebody's gonna fall at some point,
Sure.
and that's something
Mhm.
that's kind of intriguing, exciting. But hey, we'll see what happens with all the craziness tonight at the draft lottery. Anything you're looking forward to tonight for the lottery?
Uh, I think we're in for one team to make a leap. I don't know who. It might be Calgary. It might not. Um, it's just that's the way that this goes. Not last year though. Last year I don't think there was a single move. I don't think anybody moved at all. But 9 times out of 10, somebody does move, depending on how many spots.
Last year, I don't think anybody moved.
Nobody moved. Nobody moved
Yes,
last year. I did
nobody moved
confirm
last
nobody
year.
moved. There was no drama to it at all. I think what will be really interesting to see is you have what's the bottom three? You have San Jose, Chicago, and
Nashville,
Nashville,
and then Philly and Boston to
and then
round out the
Philly
top
and
five.
Boston. I'm going to be honest with you. My prediction is I think Philly ends up in the top three. That's the way I look at it. I
I
think
think I think that Boston's going to find a way into that top three,
someone
man.
said, I forgot who it was. Someone said that like, of all the teams like in the top 10, like who really like they say always like who deserves it, right? I think Philly needs like
Philadelphia needs
Philly,
this.
Philly needs it, especially if you look at what happened the last time they had a top three pick,
Yeah,
Nolan Patrick. Um,
yeah.
it's going to be interesting. I think a lot of people though, Kyle, especially on the East Coast, are worried that the Rangers are going to pull off a miracle
I was going to say
again.
the same thing,
And
man.
like honestly, I'm gonna walk off the
I'm going to be
set
pissed off if that's the
if that
case.
happens because it's not like when I'm trying to remember when Chicago got Connor Bedard, how many spots did they move up?
They moved up 2.
Two. So like that's not as bad. It was bad when the Rangers won the lottery.
Maybe one. One or
It
one
might
or
have
two.
been one. It was
One
one
for
thing.
sure.
Yeah. If you remember, the Rangers won it despite playing in the bubble, the play-in round. And I thought
Yeah.
that was a load of garbage. And they had even less of a percentage of getting it. So like I don't want to be
To be
Mr.
fair, it hasn't really worked out for them.
No, no. I mean,
Like it's
no, it
not working
hasn't.
out great.
It's not working out great. Lafreniere
Yeah.
might be moved at this
Yeah.
offseason. Who knows?
It's fascinating because I want to see the amount of guys that could potentially drop and then maybe there's a good snag there. So
I
we'll see
think
what
the
happens.
Flames will end up being where they are right now. I think that's the most likely scenario, which is fine.
Like 0.5% chance. Yeah. Like
Sure.
Montreal's
Yeah.
gonna take the pick, right?
Um, I think the big thing for the Flames, especially with this type of draft, I think it's better to just stay put and just see how the cards, how
Just see what happens.
what
Yeah.
you get. I think honestly that's the way, you know, I think that's the easiest way to go about it.
I could very easily see them move out of the first round from that Florida pick.
I would do it,
I would.
especially if there's a
Mhm.
young. if there's a youngish like center that again Craig Conroy's looking for that could be made available, with that pick. Not in the draft, but in the sense of like
Yeah,
it's some team calls and says, "Hey, we're offering thus and so." I'll tell you this. I'll throw you a question. I'll actually throw you a quick question.
I like it.
If JJ Paterka isn't signed yet, would you be willing? Would you be willing to trade the first round pick we have? So Calgary's,
So, well, it'd be New Jersey's pick though,
New Jersey's pick.
right?
Excuse me.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what you're referring to, right?
right. Yes.
Okay, yeah.
New Jersey's pick to Buffalo for the signing rights to Paterka, not knowing if he's going to sign or not. Is that too much of a risk? Because again, he does. We talked about
Hmm.
it last week. He does fit what the Flames are looking for.
It's certainly intriguing. I think what I would rather it's intriguing because it's a risk, right? Because you're not
Sure.
sure. I think it's too much of a risk. I
Okay.
get where you're coming from. I think it is just
Hmm.
too much of a risk because you don't know if he even wants to sign there. Plus,
Hmm.
you already have a loaded up center field, right? Which needs to be looked at
Sure.
coldly and calculated, and he's going to have to make a bold move, I think, eventually. But also, too, I think that with Anderson seemingly out the door this offseason, the asking price is I don't even think it's going to be a pick. I don't think they're looking at a pick. They're looking at it like a top like centered prospect. Like that's what the
Yeah.
look is going to be, right? Like we don't care
Yeah.
about the picks. They want a top centerman for this
Yeah.
switch, right? So yeah, I would rather take my risk on that. I get where you're coming from, but there's just
Mhm.
no real like
We,
you don't know if you're going to be able to
yeah.
sign him or not,
Right.
though,
And
right?
I guess I don't know if it's possible because he's an RFA, but if it was a sign and trade, would you be more inclined to doing it?
I'd have to look at the package
Or
and
you
see
have to
what it
look
is.
at it.
Yeah,
That's fair.
definitely have
I
to
was
look at the
just, I was
package.
just saying, like, if that's what I meant by giving an example of like
Sure.
said young player. There's other guys out there. It's not just Paterka. It's not just someone like Matthew Nyes or whatever. I
Right.
think it's more of just like I would be interested to see if like somebody would be willing to
To
play
do a
ball.
sign and trade.
I wouldn't really entertain other teams that are below the Flames.
Yeah,
Um, be,
yeah.
I just because unless you're getting like a top tier guy, like I don't a top tier young player prospect, I just don't see a world where that makes
I don't
sense.
see it either. But you're also like people are forgetting too that it's nice that like yeah, it sucks that you'd have to give Florida the pick to Montreal instead of being in the top 10. Like whatever, right? Like I think it's more important that they had this fantastic year and like you're able to really build this
Right.
culture and build around this team. But people are forgetting we have 2 first round picks next year.
It's true.
And I don't know, man. Vegas could fall off. I'm kind of hoping for that at this point because
At
I
some
don't trust
point they're
Florida
going
losing to
to. Yeah.
Toronto right now. Yeah,
Look, at some point they're going to. Their main core is like in their 30s. So
yeah,
like as we know with human nature, eventually
perfect
it's going to
timing.
become and like they don't have a lot of prospects to really work with. So, you know,
It's gonna be
that's the way I look at it.
fascinating. Yes.
They
All right.
really should have lost in the first round.
Yeah, I mean, that's a telltale sign. If you're struggling against Minnesota, man, oh boy, it feels like I feel like, well, we'll get to our picks, but the
Yeah, we
Western
have.
Conference Final of last year feels
Yeah.
like it could go that way too. So, okay, let's take a ad break and we'll come back and we'll give our second round playoff predictions. Let's do it. If you're ready to win some real cash during the basketball and hockey playoffs, check out Pick Six from DraftKings. When it comes to basketball payouts, DraftKings Pick Six posterizes the competition, including prize picks. Hit all your picks and score higher minimum payouts on Pick Six Plus, even more cash if you outscore the competition. Pick Six is available in most states, including Missouri, California, Texas, Georgia, and more. New players can get $50 in Pick Six credits instantly on just a $5 entry. Download the DraftKings Pick Six app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to play $5 and get $50 in Pick Six credits. Better payouts, bigger wins. It's only with Pick Six from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
All right.
Don't say, by the way, anymore. Nobody says gambling resource. They say gaming.
Different laws have certainly
Different.
changed that.
Yeah.
I didn't actually check how right or wrong I was in the first
I don't
round.
want to.
I don't really want to look yet.
I don't want to because we're going to be very embarrassed, and then everyone's gonna like laugh at us, and I don't want to.
So I'll tell you, I
already have
the games.
I have my second chance bracket. I haven't filled it out yet, but I was gonna kind of do it as we went through.
Yeah, that's fine. So I'm just looking at it right now. I was right with Toronto. I don't remember the games. I have to look at it afterwards. I was right with Florida. I totally missed the ball in Montreal there. I had Carolina there. I had the Jets in 7. So
you did have
nailed
the Jets
that.
in 7.
I
Well
nailed
done.
that. Colorado, though, that's where everything falls apart. Had Colorado, they lose. I had Vegas, and I had the LA Kings, and they blew it.
So how many did you get right out of?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of 8.
5 and 3 is not bad.
5 and 8. Yep.
I think for me, I had St. Louis in 7, so that didn't. I mean, it was going to happen, and then it didn't. I think I definitely had Colorado, so I'm wrong about that too. Yay. Vegas.
Yay.
I was right about Vegas, just one more game than expected, and then, oh God, LA just completely ruined it all for me.
They pooped the bed.
And they also, by the way, fired both their head coach and GM today.
So they did fire Hiller.
They fired Hiller and they fired Rob Blake too.
Rob Blake, yeah, I saw that.
So,
yeah, saw that.
I think I took Toronto. I'm pretty positive of that. I took Tampa. Oh, that
did not. We both had ones where we're like, "Hot, we suck.
We suck." I should have kept my Washington pick, but you convinced me.
I was doing good all the way up until game 4, and then Tom Wilson decided to run over
and then I took, obviously, because I couldn't go against my own team. I took New Jersey in 7, which I feel pretty confident that if the Devils had won that game 5, I think it would have gone 7, but that's neither here nor there now. So I think I only got 2 out of 8 right. So I'm done. Yeah,
that's tough.
Move on with that.
All right. Let's move
Please.
on. Neil, you have the honors of picking the first matchup for the second round.
All right. So
Which one do you want to talk about?
I think we started in the West.
We did. We started in the West last time. Yep.
First round. So let's go with the East, and let's start with Washington and Carolina, which I believe kicks off tonight, if I'm not mistaken.
So it kicks off tomorrow. Tonight is Leafs and Florida at 8 o'clock.
So let's do Leafs and Florida first because they're playing tonight. So
they are playing tonight. Let's start with that. Yep. Let's start with Leafs and Florida first. Florida going in right now as the betting favorite here in this matchup. No surprise there. Neil, what are your thoughts and who you got here between Florida and Toronto?
I think there's one key thing that I'll look at is one key question that I have is, can Toronto get depth scoring? I mean, you saw it in the first round against Ottawa. You saw Max Domi step up, Max Pacioretty. I mean, guys who are named Max on Toronto are just figuring it out.
They just find a way.
But yeah, that's like the big question for me for Toronto. I have no doubts. I think at this point that the top guys that we expect to step up for Toronto, I think that I think that they will. It's hard to say because every year it just seems at least one of them doesn't show up. But I look at Florida and they just scared the living daylights out of me with how much they demolished Tampa. I mean, it wasn't close. I'm very sorry. It wasn't not close.
Wasn't even close.
It should have been a 4-game sweep, honestly. And I think overall, I just think that the way that Florida plays is just going to drag. It's just going to really, really overwhelmed Toronto. I'm going to go with the Panthers in 6. That's going to be my
Okay.
prediction. I like Toronto to win some games. I don't think it's going to be like a one-sided thing. What was the series between them 2 years ago? Was it 5 games?
5 games.
It was
5
5 because they won. Yeah, because right. I was trying to remember like how many games it was. I think it'll go 6. Because I really just like Florida's chances in this one. But the depth
Florida,
score, if
yeah.
Toronto has depth scoring, Kyle, this series is gonna go 7 games.
Well, that's the thing. It's depth scoring for Toronto, but also like you still have to get your key guys to go off here. And frankly, this is a legacy game for Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews. Sorry, legacy series coming up for the two of them, right? This is to determine a lot here
Mitch
for them.
Marner in particular.
More or less Marner too.
I would
right?
say more Marner because of the fact that he is going to be the top free agent
Coming up.
UFA.
Totally agree. Totally agree. I think the other thing to look at too is that Florida was penalized a lot in that series against Tampa, and they were relentless. And that's something that you can't really do against this Leafs team because they can be very effective on the power play, and they showed in Game 6 when Matthews goes and puts them up 1-0, and little sketchy at the end, but they got there.
Yeah.
I just think Florida's just better than last year. Like, you talk about depth scoring here for Toronto, like you got Brad Marchand on the third line here.
Yes,
Florida.
you do.
You got him on the third line with Lusterine and Lundell. Like, that's how crazy this is. And you're telling me that like
had a great.
Yeah, and you're telling me that Bobby McMahon, Max Domi, and those guys have to beat that line? Like, good luck, right?
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a beatdown.
Yeah.
I think they're the important thing for Florida is that they're healthy. They are so healthy, man.
And that was a question we had going into the playoffs: is how healthy are they really?
They were just loading up and getting ready here. I just think they're going to completely outmatch the Leafs here. I got the Panthers in 5. I don't think it's going to be close. I think they're in tough here. And congrats on getting out of the first round. Now you get Florida.
Well, I feel like now, like, it's not even like a joke anymore to make like, oh, can't get out of the first. They've done it 2 of the last 3 years, so it's like whatever.
Yep.
But I'll say really quickly, the one thing Florida has to do is stay level-headed.
Yes.
They can't.
I agree.
They can't do a lot of what they did against Tampa in terms of being like overly like over the line physical, because I think with the way that Toronto's power play is, and especially what it was in the first round against Ottawa, which granted, it's a lot different between playing Ottawa and then playing Florida. But you can't give a team with that much talent on the power play multiple chances to score. Like you just can't. And so I think that's kind of the weird thing, right? Like the one big thing for Florida is like just don't take stupid penalties.
And I also worry about Anthony Stolarz and that. I don't care what he did in the regular season. It gets thrown out the window at this point. And he was okay against Ottawa. I don't think he
Game 6. They won, but Game 6, I was not.
It should not have gone.
The goal he gave up to David Perron was like, that can't happen.
No, he was too low, and you can't. No, you can't give it up like that. So, okay, let's go down to Washington and Carolina. I believe Carolina are the favorites going into this series here.
They are the betting favorites to win the cup going into the second round.
Interesting. I have Dallas. I think for me, I saw Dallas was the favorite, but I believe Carolina's up.
It might have changed.
It changes every day.
The last time I saw it, which was like 3 days ago, I think they were the betting favorite.
Well, now that we know Dallas is through, like I'm going to assume that they're the favorites. Carolina, Washington. What do you like?
I had a first person glance of watching Carolina, right? And I think that their system is really, really strong. I've said it numerous times that they play their system really well. They play it to a T. They can definitely frustrate a team that doesn't have depth scoring, as we saw. We saw it against New Jersey. It was very obvious. But this is a whole different like animal that you're facing in Washington, who has depth scoring, who has
the best depth scoring in the NHL.
The question that you have is, can the goaltending of Washington continue to play the way it's been playing? And again, like I was concerned about Logan Thompson when he got hurt in Game 3, but he bounced back and he was fine. I mean, at least it wasn't a major injury where he couldn't play. I'll say this. The key for me for Washington is Tom Wilson in this series because I know that Carolina is going to try to be physical and to try to hit Washington. And I just think Washington's ready for it.
I think they are too.
And the question still is this. What's the goaltending situation for Carolina, right? Freddie Anderson got hurt in game 4 against New Jersey.
So what do? They signed him to a 1-year extension.
They signed him to a 1-year extension, which is great. Shout out to Kevin Weeks for reporting that at the Kentucky Derby. Fantastic job. Kochetkov, I think, is good, but he also can be shaky.
He's flawed a little bit.
But you would know it because he was barely tested in the 2 games that he played in the first round against New Jersey. He just was. So you wonder how will he play against a team that will most likely be more aggressive. So with that all in mind, I'm going to go with Washington to win in 5.
Oh, in 5.
In 5, yes, because I think the one thing that is concerning to me, Kyle, is this. Did the Hurricanes really score a lot in the first round? Did they there were several times they scored empty net. They didn't, and to be fair,
well, game 1, but yeah.
4 of the 5 games ended up being decided by a goal or 2.
Or 2, yeah.
Or 2. One of them was an empty netter, who cares? And the last 2 games went to overtime. I mean, by all rights, a lot of people thought the Devils were going to get swept. And they fought to the best that they could. Mm-hmm. But, you look at Carolina, and I just, the offense is the problem. I just don't know. Will it dry up is the question. I don't know. It's just the depth of Washington just feels better than what Carolina could throw out. But if Carolina could have success defensively the way that they did in the first round, I could definitely see Carolina, winning this series. But I'm going to go with Washington. And you know what? I'm going to change my prediction. I'm going to say Washington in 6. I want to be a little more fair to Carolina.
Okay.
Washington in 6.
So I think this series goes 7.
Okay.
I think it's probably going to go 7. I feel it in my bones. This is going to go 7. I had Carolina in my original bracket going to the Eastern Final. And the reason why I had Washington out was because I thought they were going to be flawed a little bit against Montreal in the sense that, is it going to be, for some of these guys here, is the moment going to be too big? And that wasn't the case because of one man, and it was Tom Wilson, right? Yeah. Who I think is the most underrated player in the entire league. I don't think he gets enough credit. I think he should have been on Team Canada for the 4 Nations. It's been talked about, but the problem I think I have a hard time with Carolina in two senses here. One is the physical battling that they had with New Jersey a little bit. Yeah, it ends in 5 games here. That's going to be doubled here by Washington. And they're going to have that bullish mindset as well, too. Yeah. So I think Washington wins that. And then goaltending for me is kind of canceled out just because you're getting questionables on both sides a little bit. So that for me cancels it out. But then the other problem is the first thing I think of is Carolina. Yes, they were dominant. If you remember when we were both watching game 5 there, but you got to finish at some point against that team. Right. And I think the biggest problem is going to be, the biggest players and the most key players in this series, if Carolina is going to win, are going to be guys like Aho, Svechnikov, and co. Right? Seth Jarvis. Oh, even more Seth Jarvis. I thought he was a ghost for a good chunk of that series, right? Maybe outside of 1 game. So you can't have that going into against this team who's got more depth than you. And I think it's even more important that if there's any series that is more important to being home ice advantage, I think it's this one. Because I think Carolina can find ways to win at home. I think they are the best home team with the 8 teams that remain. I think they find good ways to win at home.
They do.
So I think if Washington handles their business and if they can steal a game on the road in Carolina, then this series could be over very quickly. And I feel like it's going to be similar to what we just witnessed there with the Jets and the Blues, where it's very home ice dominant.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a lot of good points. And the same goes for Carolina. If they can win a game in Washington, which is possible, It's not out of the realm of possibility.
Of course they can. Every team left here, like, of course. Like, it's going to be hard, but they can, of course.
It will be hard. I'm really, really, I'm excited. I think in the East, that's probably the series that
I'm fascinated to see what's going to happen.
It's very fascinating for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
Because you can even make an argument. It could be a toss-up between those two teams, honestly.
It could. And that's why. Sorry, I was just going to finish my prediction.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to have Washington in 7. I'm going to flip my pick here because I think if they get home ice here for Game 7, I just think that they're going to be too much. Well, I think if it gets to that point, I like them more at home. If it was the other way around, that's why I probably would have took Carolina. I think home ice is going to play a huge part in this.
Well said.
Did you have a point that you wanted to say?
No,
before I cut you off.
No, you're good. No,
all right. Can we start with Vegas and Edmonton?
Yeah, save the best for last.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
All right. So Vegas favorites going into this one here. Oilers, to me, have no business being in this series whatsoever. Starts in Vegas on Tuesday night, I believe, is Game 1 starting tomorrow night. Confirmed that Calvin Pickard and Aiden Hill are going to be your starting goaltenders. I saw already for Game 1. So that's confirmed.
It's the weakest goaltending. I got to be honest.
High scoring. I feel like it's going to be high scoring as well, too.
Oh, yeah.
Neil, who you got?
I forgot. Vegas is. Does Vegas have the? They do, right? They have the home ice.
Right? They have home ice and favorites going into this series. Yeah.
That's a real I'm trying to be
fair. It's a tough one to pick, man.
It's a tough one to pick because which goaltending is going to be worse? Because I mean, honestly,
Edmonton, it's got to be Pickard. I can't. Magic has to end.
I just want to say really quickly that if it wasn't for a reviewed for an offsides in Game 6, in Game 5, Minnesota might have won that series, and we're not even talking about Vegas right now.
You got it. Because they would have won Game 5.
It should have gone back to Minnesota 3-2. 3-2 Minnesota, not 3-2 Vegas. But that's neither here nor there. I think the problem that I have with Edmonton is it's the most obvious thing, and that's goaltending. I just don't like my chances with Calvin Pickard.
I don't feel comfortable.
I don't feel comfortable. Even if you put Stuart Skinner back in, I don't feel comfortable.
Right.
So this is going to be more of a hot take maybe than anything. I'm going to go with Vegas in 5. I don't like Edmonton. There's only so much bad goaltending that you can overcome.
Mm-hmm.
And as you get deeper in the playoffs, you're going to be facing teams who have a quote unquote better goaltending. Because again, with Aiden Hill, I don't know. Aiden Hill looks shaky at times in the first round. But I'm going to go with I'm going to go with Vegas in 5. I just think that they're a better overall team than Edmonton. That doesn't mean that Edmonton, that doesn't mean that the better team always wins, as we've seen numerous times in the playoffs. But I think Vegas is gonna do this, and they're a really tough team to beat at home. Granted, they did lose a game at home in the first round. They should have lost 2 by all rights, but I just the battle of high scoring. I like my chances more with Vegas.
I think I agree that. Listen, I've got Vegas winning the series too. I do.
Okay.
I just can't. I agree with your goaltending take. I disagree in the sense that Connor and Leon will not let this go down in 5. I think they're gonna. I think if anything, they drag it back to Edmonton. I could honestly no. This is gonna go 7 games.
Okay.
I'm convinced this is gonna. I think this is gonna go 7-2. Okay. I think you got 2 series here that are gonna go 7 at least. I just at some point the foundation's gonna crack for Edmonton, right? Mm-hmm. Like Evander Kane coming back in, that's been very nice, and they've gotten a bit of depth scoring, which is always needed and helpful for Edmonton because you got 2 of the front runners here who are carrying away with it. And to be honest, Nugent Hopkins had a great series against the Kings, and Hyman was okay. He was all right. He was there. The problem I think they're going to find...
He needs to be more involved.
He needs to be more involved. The problem that I'm going to find is that they're going to really start to miss Matthias Ekholm against these guys here.
Is there any? I forgot. Is there any update on him?
Yeah, he's done. Don't
He's
expect to see him in the
done.
playoffs.
What I
No,
thought.
he is done. Yeah.
What a shock.
And I'm sorry if Calvin Pickard is the starting goaltender that makes it to the Western Conference Final.
Oh,
I'm gonna have a hissy fit. I'm gonna be so mad.
Yeah.
Like that just tells me more about Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl than it does about Calvin Pickard. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I think this goes the distance though. I think this goes 7. I like Vegas in 7. I think home ice plays a bit more of a factor here as well too. I think they're a good road team as well though, and even watching them when they played Calgary coming up recently as well too. They just find really good ways to control their own destiny in the sense that I find that they're very controlling, like they're the dictating factor a little bit, especially on the back end, who I think defensively, they have the best defense in the final 8 here. I think they do with Noah Hannafin, with Shea Theodore, with Pietrangelo back there. That's why they only need a guy like Aiden Hill in net, right? Is because they have that amount of trust in that defensive core. And I think that that Pavel Dvoriev kid in Vegas, I think this is going to be his coming out party in this series. I think he's going to light the lamp here and he's going to find a way. So I like Vegas. I think this still goes the distance because bullshit magic from Edmonton is going to carry this team to 7 games. I think Vegas finishes the job though.
That's always the problem, right? We're, not saying you in particular, but banking on magic, which we always get. And boy, we got some magic the last 2 days, entertainment wise. I will say this. So one thing about Calvin Pickard, Kyle, which I thought was interesting, no qualified goalie has allowed fewer rebound attempts per 60 minutes this year than Calvin Pickard.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying, is that going to make a difference? I don't know, but he's very good at not allowing there to be a rebound opportunity. So that's the thing. And I will say this, I think the difference for Vegas is going to be Jack Eichel. I think he needs to stay hot. He had 4 points in games 5 and 6 combined. If he can stay hot, not saying he has to carry the offense, but if he stays hot, I think I think they're going to overwhelm. And that's the thing. Like, if the goaltending is solid for Edmonton, I could see this series going the way that you're saying it's going.
I think so too.
But if Calvin Pickard starts having issues where he's letting in some soft ones or they're getting overwhelmed defensively, I could see Vegas just really, really controlling this series, no matter how much McDavid and Draisaitl try to pull it, try to keep it going.
Yeah, it's going to be.
As we know, it's a team sport, not a 2-player sport.
It's going to be tough sledding. But I think that, and I might throw this out there, that Minnesota's got better depth than Edmonton,
100%.
and Vegas was having problems with Minnesota's depth. So that should say a lot.
I give Minnesota a lot of credit.
Yeah, I do too. They played great.
I feel like that series should have gone 7. I was hoping for it. It was a really fun series.
Should have gone 7.
Honestly.
Should have definitely gone 7.
Every game, though, was at 10 p.m., and that was...
We don't got time for that.
Are we guaranteed at this point to not have a super late start? Or are we
funny
still
that you say that, actually, though, because Grant will be doing game 1 between Vegas and Edmonton coming up tomorrow night.
Good.
Tomorrow night, Grant will be doing game 1.
I'm trying to think of what series would I want to do.
I think Washington, Carolina. I like that one.
Yeah,
Toronto, Florida could be funny.
Honestly, I'm down for it.
I would even do a game 1 or a game 2 for Winnipeg.
Yeah,
Let's talk about it.
I really like that series.
Let's do it. Okay, this is saving the best for last year. So,
holy smokes.
Probably the craziest weekend of game 7s that we've had in a really long time for the NHL playoffs. Dallas coming back down 2-0 in that third period. They move on. Shout out to Mikko Rantanen, who had a coming out party and basically laid to rest McKinnon and Makar.
I was wrong about Mikko Rantanen. He shut me up completely.
He shut a lot of people up there. He really did.
He has my full respect as a player now.
If there was ever a time,
he's awesome.
Ever a time for him to show up, it was then and there.
Also, I think it's fair to say, I'm just going to say right away, the trade between Carolina and Dallas has worked out well for both teams.
It's weird to say that.
Rantanen has done fantastic. Stankoven, granted, between games 2 and 5, not as much, but he had his moment of stepping up.
He slid into the lineup very well.
Fit in very well in their system.
Yes, totally. And yeah, I mean, with the Jets, What else can you say, man?
Oh, you son of a-
It was a like Jim
It was
Montgomery said it after
awesome.
the presser yesterday. He's like, that series was fucking amazing. Like it
Yeah,
was just a brutal beatdown where it was just that was the most physical series out of all of the first round
yeah,
matchups. It was crazy.
I like it.
Winnipeg, despite not having Shifley, despite not having Morrissey either,
Morrissey, I think he got hurt in his first shift.
2 minutes in, he got hurt. We don't know the status of it yet with him. But yeah, not having Morrissey, not having Shifley, and the Jets
Did they
find a way to
show
pull
when
one
he
out.
got hurt? I don't remember seeing.
They did show it. It was along the boards. I believe it was Radek Faxa who hit him, I believe, and he kind of got hit awkwardly and he didn't return. We're going to hear more, I guess, today from Josh Morrissey.
Yeah,
But they somehow,
we'll look to see if there's anything.
some way, somehow, the Jets find a way to tie it with 1.6 seconds left, and they go on to win in double overtime.
Yours.
All right. I'll wrap this one up here and I'll go first here. I think that a lot of people probably expected it to be Winnipeg and Dallas, maybe on a lot of people's brackets, I would say. Fitting, I think this is how the Central Division is going to be taken going, whoever goes to the conference final here. I've got a shocker for you, Neil. You ready?
Sure.
I got the Dallas Stars winning in 4 games.
You're going full sweep.
I've got the Stars sweeping the Winnipeg Jets.
Wow. There's
I think,
and I thought my Vegas in 5 was a stretch.
I think the Stars are going to sweep them. I think that the Jets got so banged up in that series against St. Louis. I think it's going to take a massive toll, and I think the Stars went the opposite direction. It clearly wasn't as physical, but the way that they persevered and the way that Mikko Rantanen had a coming out party, Dallas is just deeper. I think they're a much deeper team. I think they've got the better goaltending. I can't trust Hellebuck with a 5-foot pole. And I think the health of their star players in Shifley, in Morrissey, in Neil Pionk, who played 46 minutes in Game 7, I think that's going to play a toll. And I think Hellebuck is going to be the only reason why Winnipeg can stay in the series. They had no business winning that Game 7 yesterday. Credit to them that they pulled it off with a rabbit out of their ass and they found a way. I give them full credit. Not against this team. Not against this Dallas team. This ain't the St. Louis Blues, man. This is not a Blues team that is up and coming, man.
Blues, damn.
This is not the St. Louis Blues. This is a Dallas team that's going to bully the hell out of you offensively. I have Dallas in 4. I think they sweep them.
Can that be clipped? I feel like that needs
to. I'll clip it. Yeah, I got it. I'll clip it. I'll clip it.
I think you have to face the music on social media for that.
I'll face everybody. Right, I don't think it's a crazy thing to say.
I'll give it to you. I love it. I love that type of thing. First and foremost, just want to give the Blues their flowers. Like, obviously, the way that it ended was bad.
Yes.
Again, I agree with you. I don't think St. Louis really blew it. As more of just everything went exactly the way it needed to be.
You got to find a way to close that, though.
Well, yeah. I mean, you got to find a way to lock it down with 1 second left. It can't do that. But I think I just think that the Blues have a lot to be excited about moving forward. Having Jim Montgomery as their coach, I think
great coach for that.
Great,
team.
Fantastic. Jim Rutherford continuing to make really good moves. That team needs to add a little bit of more scoring, which I think they could in the offseason. We'll see. Colorado, yeah, I'm not going to give you any credit. You totally blew it. You totally 1,000% blew it. I don't know where you go from here. Honestly, I don't know. Yeah. So that'll be a really interesting question. I mean, I think even McKinnon said it. I don't know where to go from here. Just kind of scary when you think about it.
I didn't even bring up the fact that they didn't have Robertson or Heiskanen, who I believe is coming back in this series. That's another factor. They're going to come back healthy.
Are we led to believe that Robertson might be out the rest of the season?
Ryan Whitney today said that they from what he was hearing, again,
take that with a grain of salt.
Credible sources, but at least expect Heiskanen to be back early and Robertson potentially later in the series if it goes later. But like we said, they beat Colorado without Robertson and Heiskanen. Does that not tell you like more about my
It tells you a
crazy
lot.
pick?
No, it tells you a lot about the depth of that team. It tells you a lot about it.
Mm.
I think the one concern I have for Dallas is like, and I'll give them full credit, they barely led in that series, by the way, against Colorado.
It's true.
They barely led. I couldn't even tell you I think Game 7 might have been the longest that they had played with a lead in the entire series. Like I could be wrong.
That's right. No, I think you're around the ballpark.
Very
there,
funny.
Yeah.
Winnipeg, like you said, banged up going into it. Mark Scheifele, I think Scheifele's going to come back. It just, I could be wrong.
I don't know, man.
Morrissey, again, I looked at it. It's just weird. But again, similar with Dallas, right? You got to give Winnipeg its due. They found a way to come back and win that Game 7 despite not having Scheifele, despite not having Morrissey for pretty much the entire game. And Hellebuck got off to a rough start, but he bounced back and made some really big saves when he needed to, and got some revenge from the Four Nations for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not going with a sweep. I'll tell you that much. That just seems it's a lot. I can't jump on the same bandwagon.
You don't have to. I'm on this boat alone.
I learned my lesson from the first round, so I'm not going to.
You don't have to.
I'm gonna go. I think this goes 7. I think we're in for another fun series. I think we're in for another fun series. I'm gonna go with Winnipeg in 7.
No.
That's what I think is gonna happen again. I think this is my thought. I think that despite the fact that Hellebuck was pulled 3 times and could have been pulled in Game 7, I think him getting over that hump of like getting beyond this round, getting past Jordan Binnington with all the criticism that he was facing from me as well. I think that Hellebuck's going to be that much more motivated in round 2. This is the most exciting goaltending matchup, I think, of the 4 series because of like Jake Ottinger and Hellebuck. You're talking about the first 2 goaltenders of Team USA and the Four Nations, who both played at one point or another.
Well, don't forget, like it was Binnington versus Hellebuck yesterday.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I was like, he got his revenge. I think that it's not because I believe the Jets are the better team or have depth scoring. I believe it has much more to do with somebody on Winnipeg is going to step up big. And I'm going to say it's going to be Kyle Connor.
Okay.
I really like Kyle Connor to have a big series, but Dallas can easily overwhelm Winnipeg if they're not careful, as we just saw in the last round. But I think that the Jets are that much more motivated because of how everybody counted them out in Game 7 people counted them out in Game 7 before that game started.
Right.
And it didn't get off to a good start either, but they found a way. And I understand that they are banged up, but so is Dallas for now. Just for now.
Okay.
But I really think that Winnipeg is going to find a way. And I think we're in for a hell of a series, Kyle. So I'm going to go with Winnipeg in 7. Now one.
I think we have to keep track of that. I think bragging rights are on the line here.
I think bragging rights are indeed on the line in that one.
All right, I like it.
All right, there you go.
I like it. Perfect. Well, it's gonna wrap it up for today. Make sure to come out tonight, guys, at 6:45 Eastern. We'll be live for about 45.
Less than 3 hours from
Less than 3 hours from now. Draft lottery starts at 7 o'clock tonight, guys, and we will be live at 7 for the lottery tonight. Grant will have round 2 kicking off tomorrow for Oilers and Knights, and we'll be live at some point for one of the series. I don't know which one.
I think I might not be able to do the first game. No, I know I can't do tomorrow, so maybe Wednesday I'll be able to.
That's a later week problem.
I'm going to try to. It's a later. Do we do World Championships? Which, by the way, just before we sign off. So,
I
Team
forgot.
Canada now has Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon, Marc-Andre Fleury, and there was someone else, maybe.
I mean, Mackenzie Weegar, if we're talking Flames here.
Yeah.
That's
a really good. I'm just saying that's a really good team already for.
I think McKinnon's gonna I think
he's gonna take his frustration out on everyone.
Frustration number 1. I think he's gonna get in Crosby's ear at this World Championships.
He's gonna be like, "Please come." Like at this point, I'm
gonna drag you out of that hellhole, and we're going to win. Like I don't care. Request your rights, get the hell out of there, and let's go win a cup next year.
So what does he have? 1 more year left on his deal?
I believe he has 1 more year left.
But the money is the problem because he signed a stupid contract.
I think they care.
But who are you giving up if you're Colorado?
I don't know. All
Giving
right,
up
well,
Ross
that's gonna wrap it up today, and yeah, we'll be back next week with everything else, all the reactions to that, maybe some more signings from the Flames, and all that and much more. Neil, I'll see you tonight for the draft lottery, and for
Colton? See you
everybody
in a few
else,
hours.
have a great rest of the week. Talk to you later.